My son was acting weird, so I faked a trip and put a camera in his office. At 7 o'clock that evening, the superintendent called me. See what happened next. What appeared on the screen almost made me fall out of my chair. The betrayal hurt, but my response was even stronger. My name is Eleanor Johnson. I am 67 years old, and if there's one thing I've learned in this life, it's that mothers always know. Always, even if they lie to our faces, even if they fake smiles, even if they swear everything is fine. We know. And I knew something was wrong with Ethan, my only son. The boy I raised alone after a heart attack took my Henry when we were barely 42. The kid I worked double shifts for at my tailoring shop to pay for college. The man who is now 38 has a fancy office and a wife who has never looked at me with genuine affection. It all started 3 months ago. Subtleties that anyone else would ignore, but which, for a mother, are fire alarms. Ethan stopped coming over on Sundays. He used to arrive religiously at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, sit at the kitchen table, and devour my turkey and gravy while telling me about his legal cases. He's a lawyer, just like he always dreamed. Just like I dreamed for him while my fingers bled from sewing so many prom dresses. But suddenly the excuses started pouring down like a hurricane season. Mom, I have an important hearing. Sorry, Valerie isn't feeling well. Better next week, okay? Next week never came. Then came the strange calls. I would call him in the afternoons, just as I had for 30 years, and he would answer with a tense, rushed voice. I would hear murmuring in the background. Once, I swear I heard Valerie say something about accelerating the process before he abruptly hung up, claiming he had bad signal. Process? What process? My mother's instinct began to scream. One Thursday afternoon, I decided to show up at his office unannounced. That office was part of my condo, the 1,991 square foot apartment I bought with the money from my business in Manhattan. I lent it to him when he got married 5 years ago, because he needed a professional space to receive clients. And I, as always, said yes. The silly mother, the generous mother, the mother who never learns. I rang the doorbell. No one answered. I rang again. Silence. I took out my master key and went in. The office was empty, but on the mahogany desk that belonged to my husband, I saw scattered papers. I approached. They were legal documents with my name. Eleanor Johnson Carter. Words I didn't fully understand. Mental capacity assessment. Guardianship. Transfer of assets. My blood ran cold. I quickly took a photo with my cell phone, put the papers back exactly as they were, and left, my heart pounding in my ears. I walked the 3 blocks to my apartment on trembling legs. I went inside. I closed the door, and I sat on my brown velvet armchair, the one Henry gave me on our 15th wedding anniversary. I didn't cry. Not yet. Because something in me, something forged in years of widowhood and hard work, told me this was just the beginning. That if I cried now, I wouldn't have the strength for what was coming. I couldn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned in bed, reviewing every recent conversation with Ethan. Every gesture of Valerie's at the few family gatherings where she appeared with an annoyed look on her face. That woman never liked me. From the day I met her 6 years ago at a fancy dinner on Park Avenue, I knew she saw me as a nuisance, an old mother-in-law who was superfluous in the perfect life she was designing. But my son loved her, or so I thought. The next day I called Stella, my friend of 40 years. We met at the New York City Garment District when we were both young mothers looking for the best fabrics. She became a widow before me and was always my advisor, my life sister. Ellie, if you have a hunch that something's wrong, it's because something is wrong, she told me, with that husky voice of a reformed smoker. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, I lied, because I already knew. A plan was already forming in my head. A dangerous one that scared me, but a necessary one. The next few days, I watched Ethan like a hawk. I started jotting down his schedule, his calls, his lies. Small thing I used to ignore now became evidence, like when he said he had a meeting at 8 o'clock at night on a Tuesday. What lawyer has meetings at that hour? Or when Valerie posted a photo on social media at an expensive restaurant the same day she was supposedly sick in bed. The pieces were starting to fit, and the picture they formed terrified me. But I needed proof, real proof, not just the intuitions of a paranoid mother, which is surely what they would call me if I confronted them without solid evidence. That's when the idea came to me. A crazy idea. Risky, but effective. I was going to pretend to go on a trip. I was going to install cameras in the office. And I would discover what the heck was happening in my own home with my own son. Because if one thing is clear to me after 67 years in this world, it is that the truth always comes out. Always. And I was going to make sure it came out before it was too late. Before they took everything I built with these wrinkled hands that now trembled with rage and fear. Planning a trap for your own son is like swallowing glass. Every decision hurts. Every step makes you question if you are really doing the right thing or if you are becoming a bitter, suspicious old woman. But I was neither of those things. I was a mother protecting what belonged to her, and if I had to become a detective to uncover the truth, then I would. Monday morning I called Ethan. I forced my voice to sound cheerful, carefree. Honey, guess what? Your Aunt Rhonda invited me to spend a few days in Boston. She says we haven't seen each other in months, and, well, you know how persistent she is. There was a pause of barely 2 seconds that told me everything. Oh, that's great, Mum. When are you leaving? Tomorrow. You know, at my age, you don't know when the last time you see your siblings will be. Another pause. How many days will you stay? There it was, the question that confirmed my suspicions. He didn't ask if I needed anything. He didn't offer to drive me to the terminal. He just wanted to know how long I would be gone. 4 or 5 days, maybe a week if I'm comfortable. Perfect, Mum. Have a good time. Say hi to Aunt Rhonda for me. He hung up quickly, too quickly. I stared at the phone, my heart aching. My son had just been happy that his mother was leaving town. When did we get to this point? But there was no time for sentimentality. I had work to do. That same afternoon, I went to an electronics store in Greenwich Village. The boy at the counter, a thin kid with thick glasses and a video game t-shirt, looked at me skeptically when I explained what I needed. Ma'am, are you sure you want live stream cameras? Completely sure. And they must have good resolution. I want to see and hear everything perfectly. He sold me 2 small, almost invisible cameras, with high-quality audio and a direct connection to my cell phone. They cost me $840. It hurt to spend that money, but the truth is priceless. Do you need someone to install them? The boy asked. No, I'll take care of it. That night, with my heart pounding in my chest, I went to the apartment where Ethan's office is located. I used my key. I entered my own property like a thief. What a bitter irony. I placed the first camera inside a picture frame that holds a photo of Ethan receiving his college diploma. That day, I cried with pride. Now I was placing a camera behind that memory to spy on him. Life takes cruel turns. I hid the second one in an artificial plant that Valerie had put on a high shelf. She never liked real plants because they require work. I should have known then that that woman was not made to take care of anything or anyone. I tested the cameras with my cell phone. Perfect. Full angle of the desk. Crisp audio. If something happened there, I would see and hear everything. Before leaving, I stood in the middle of that office. The law books on the shelves, the framed diploma, the desk lamp I gave him myself when he opened his practice. All built with my effort, my love, my sacrifice. "Please, Ethan," I whispered into the void. "Please let me be wrong." But deep down, I knew I wasn't. The next day, I got up early, packed a small suitcase as if I were really going on a trip, and called Stella. "It's done. Now I need a place to stay without anyone knowing. Come to my house. You have your room." "Do you know about this?" "No. If Ethan comes looking for me or asks, you would tell the truth. I know you. I need a discreet hotel." I reserved a room in a small hotel in Chelsea. Nothing luxurious. A decent bed, a window overlooking a grey building, and a strong internet connection. That was all I needed. I called Robert, the superintendent of the building where I live. He is a man in his 50s, a family man, honest. We have been working together for 13 years. I trust him more than many of my own blood, apparently. "Mr. Robert, I need to ask you a very big favor." I explained the situation, not everything, just what was necessary. That I suspected strange movements in my son's office, that I had installed cameras, that I would be watching from afar. "If you see unknown people entering at odd hours, or if something happens that seems suspicious, call me immediately, no matter the time." Robert looked at me with those wise eyes of someone who has seen a lot in life. "Mrs. Johnson, you have always been good to me and my family. When my boy was sick, you helped us without us asking. I'll take care of it. I'll be alert." I went to the hotel with a lump in my throat. I messaged Ethan that I was already on the bus. He replied with a heart emoji. An emoji. Not even words. The first 2 days, nothing unusual happened. Ethan would enter the office in the mornings, work, and leave in the afternoons. I watched the recordings on my cell phone obsessively, pausing every detail, looking for signs. Stella came to see me. She brought me meatloaf because I barely ate a bite. "Ellie, what if you don't find anything? What if it's all in your head?" "Then I'll be the happiest crazy old lady in the world," I replied. But on Wednesday afternoon, something changed. I saw Ethan enter the office at 4 o'clock. He looked nervous. He checked his cell phone every 2 minutes. At 5:30, he left and didn't return. The hours passed. 6. 6:30. 6:45. Then my cell phone vibrated. It was Robert. "Mrs. Johnson?" His voice sounded tense, urgent. "A blonde woman just entered the office. It's not your son's wife. And she came in with a man in a suit that I don't know. They're carrying briefcases and—" He paused. "Your daughter-in-law Valerie just arrived too." I gasped. "Are you sure?" "Completely. What should I do?" "Nothing. Don't do anything. Just, thank you, Mr. Robert." I hung up with trembling hands. I opened the camera app on my cell phone, and then I saw it. What appeared on the screen almost made me fall out of my chair. Valerie was sitting at my desk, in the leather chair I bought with my first big profit from the workshop. She had a glass of wine in her hand, as if she were in her own living room celebrating something. Facing her, a man in his mid-40s, expensive grey suit, slicked back hair. He had that shark smile that you recognize immediately, the smile of someone who makes a living by taking advantage of others. And next to them, a blonde woman with folders under her arm. I didn't know her. I had never seen her in my life. I turned the volume on my cell phone to the maximum. My hands were sweating so much that the device almost slipped. "So we're clear, right?" the man said in a deep, authoritative voice. The psychiatric evaluation is scheduled for next week. Dr. Spencer already has the instructions. He will diagnose advanced cognitive decline. Valerie let out a laugh, a cold laugh that cut through me like a knife. And what if the old lady refuses to go? She won't refuse. You tell her it's a routine checkup. At her age, they all believe it. They're like children. The blonde woman spoke for the first time, nasal, annoyed voice. How much is the entire property worth? The man checked some papers. The condo in Manhattan where she lives, $8.5 million. This condo where we are, $6.2 million. She has 2 commercial rental properties in Queens that generate $38,000 monthly, and a bank investment account with approximately $2.1 million. He paused. In total, we're talking about assets close to $17 million. The air went out of my lungs. $17 million. The result of 35 years of working from sunrise to sunset, of sewing until my fingers bled, of saving every dollar, of investing intelligently, of waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning for decades. And these miserable people were talking about it as if it were money found in the street. Valerie leaned back in the chair, my chair, with a look of satisfaction. Once we have the declaration of incapacity, how long will it take to transfer everything? 2 months maximum, the man replied. Ethan signs as legal guardian. You process a simulated sales deed before the notary I recommend to you. And that's it. The lady won't even find out until she's institutionalized. Institutionalized? The word hit me like a slap. And what if she makes a scene? The blonde asked. The guy laughed smugly. Who's going to believe an old woman diagnosed with senile dementia? Besides, the assisted living facility I'm considering is discreet. Expensive, but discreet. With the $2.1 million in her investment account, it's enough to keep her there for about 3 years. By then, we will have liquidated the properties and we'll be calm. Valerie raised her glass. To my dear mother-in-law, who has given us so much and is going to give us so much more. The 3 of them toasted. They toasted with my wine. In my office, planning to steal everything from me and lock me up like an animal. I wanted to scream. I wanted to vomit. I wanted to jump through the cell phone screen and tear their eyes out. But I remained paralyzed, watching that hellish scene with silent tears rolling down my cheeks. Then I heard the office door open. Ethan entered, and my heart skipped a beat. Now, I thought, now my son is going to defend his mother. He's going to kick out these thieves. He's going to... But Ethan closed the door behind him calmly. He loosened his tie and sat on the side sofa, as if nothing were happening. Are you guys done? He asked in a tired voice. Valerie got up and walked toward him. She stroked his hair. Almost, my love. Mr. Miller was just going over the final details. Good, Ethan said. And then with a sigh, the less my mother knows, the better. I don't want her to suffer unnecessarily. Something broke inside me at that moment. It wasn't my heart. That was already broken since I saw the first image. It was something deeper, something that has no name. The absolute trust, the blind faith, the love a mother has for the son she carried for 9 months, the one she breastfed, the one she nursed through every illness, the one she defended from everyone. All of that turned to dust. Valerie sat back down. Does she suspect anything? Ethan shook his head. Nothing. In fact, she's happy in Boston with my aunt. She texted me saying she might stay the whole week. They laughed. All 4 of them laughed. And I was still there, in that cheap hotel room, with my cell phone trembling in my hands, watching my son, plan my destruction. Mr. Miller pulled out a folder. I need us to sign my service agreement. It's $45,000. $15,000 now. The rest when the property transfer is finalized. Valerie didn't hesitate for a second. Perfect. Ethan, get the check. My son obeyed like a lapdog. He took out his checkbook and signed $45,000 to ruin my life. The meeting continued for another 20 minutes. They reviewed dates, strategies, contacts. The blonde turned out to be a corrupt social worker who would falsify home visit reports, claiming I lived in deplorable conditions. Every word was another nail in my coffin. When they finally left, Valerie and Ethan stayed alone in the office. She walked over to him and kissed him. A long, disgusting kiss. When we have all the money, we're going to move to Miami. We'll buy that house facing the ocean we saw, and your mother, well, let her rot wherever they put her. Ethan said nothing. He didn't contradict her. He didn't defend me. He didn't show an ounce of remorse. He just hugged her. And there, in that treacherous embrace, I understood that I had lost my son a long time ago, probably since the day that Viper entered his life and filled his head with ambition and wickedness. I turned off the cell phone screen. I couldn't watch anymore. I slumped onto the bed. And then, yes, I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since the day I buried Henry. I cried for the baby boy I hugged for the first time, for the young man who gave me flowers with his first paycheck, for the man who swore he would always take care of me. I cried for the mother I had been, and for the fool I still was. But after crying for 3 hours, something changed. I dried my tears. I washed my face. I looked in the mirror, and that 67-year-old woman with deep, dark circles and grey hair gave me a look I hadn't seen in years. A warrior's look. They were wrong, I told my reflection. They were wrong about me. Because if I learned one thing from my years of widowhood and struggle, it is that a woman who built an empire from scratch does not let herself be destroyed without a fight. And I was just getting started. I didn't sleep that night, or the next, or the one after. I stayed in that hotel room reviewing the recordings again and again. Every word, every gesture, every damn smile of complicity between those vultures. I took notes, names, dates, amounts, everything they mentioned. Mr. Arthur Miller. I looked him up online. He had an office in Los Angeles, specializing in estate and probate law. In the photo on his website, he had that same shark smile. The online comments were contradictory, some satisfied clients, others accusing him of shady practices. A clear pattern. The man had no scruples. The blonde was Caroline Baker, a licensed social worker, but with a dubious history. I found a newspaper article from 2 years ago where she had been investigated for falsifying documents in an inheritance case. They never proved anything, but the shadow was there. And Dr. Spencer. That one was harder to track. There were 3 psychiatrists with that last name in New York City, but only one had a private clinic in Manhattan and offered discreet evaluations for older adults. Every day I watched the recordings. Ethan came and went from the office, sometimes alone, sometimes with Valerie. They reviewed papers, made calls, planning my living funeral. One afternoon, 6 days after starting my trip, I captured something that chilled me to the bone. Valerie entered the office alone. She looked nervous. She started desperately searching through the desk drawers. She pulled out folders, documents, turned everything upside down. She was talking to herself. Or rather, she was talking on the phone with wireless headphones. No, honey, I can't find them. Yes, I'm sure there has to be a will here. What? No. Ethan doesn't know I'm looking. He thinks everything is going to turn out perfectly with the doctor. Honey? Was she calling someone other than my son honey? I turned the volume up even more. I leaned so close to the screen that my nose almost touched it. Well, of course I love him. But this is money, Rodney. $17 million. With that, you and I can go anywhere. No, he won't suspect anything. He's an idiot, a useful idiot who signs where I tell him to. My stomach turned. My daughter-in-law wasn't just stealing from me. She was cheating on my son and using him as a tool for her plan. I kept listening. Once we have the money, I'm filing for divorce. I'll claim he abused me or something. Anyway, after institutionalizing the old lady, he'll be so guilty that he won't even fight it. And you and I are taking off for London like we planned. London. Rodney. An entire life designed on the ruins of mine. Valerie finally found what she was looking for. A green folder that I kept with my important documents. She opened it. She read. And she smiled. I've got it. The will. Everything is in Ethan's name, just as we thought. Perfect. That makes everything easier. She took photos of every page with her cell phone. Then she put everything back exactly as it was and left. I stared at the blank screen with a hole in my chest. My son wasn't the mastermind of this. He was another victim. A puppet manipulated by a woman who never loved him, who only saw in him a path to my money. But that didn't absolve him. Because he had chosen to believe her over trusting me. He had chosen to sign documents, hire that corrupt lawyer, plan my confinement. Victim or not, he had betrayed his mother. I called Stella. I needed to talk to someone before I went crazy. Ellie, come to my house. Now, you can't stay locked up there. I went. I drove my old 2008 Honda Civic that I've had since Ethan entered college. That car has taken me everywhere. I never wanted to change it. Ethan always told me to buy something better, something more dignified for someone of my economic position. Now I understood why. It wasn't for my comfort. It was because he was embarrassed that his mother was driving a 17-year-old car. I arrived at Stella's house after 9 o'clock at night. She opened the door and immediately hugged me. There, in the arms of my 40-year friend, I allowed myself to crumble a little. I know everything, I told her. It's worse than I imagined. I recounted every detail while we drank coffee in her kitchen. She listened in silence, her face growing paler. That son of a bitch, she muttered when I finished. Stella never swears. The fact that she did now made me feel validated in my rage. And what are you going to do now? Fight, I said with a firmness I didn't know I still had. I'm going to fight with everything I have. You need a lawyer, a good one. I know, but it has to be someone who doesn't know Ethan, someone who isn't in his circle. Stella thought for a moment. Then she snapped her fingers. Arnold Curtis. Who? The son of Mrs. Mitchell, my neighbor from years ago. He's a lawyer, specializing in financial fraud and family law. Good. Honest. And most importantly, he has no relationship with your son's legal world. The next morning, I was sitting in Mr. Arnold's office. A man in his 50s, bald, with thick glasses and a kind smile that immediately inspired confidence. I showed him everything. The videos, the audio recordings, the names, the dates. He reviewed each file with professional attention, taking notes in a hardback notebook. When he finished, he took off his glasses and looked me directly in the eyes. Mrs. Johnson, what you have here is pure gold in legal terms. Clear evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery of documents, and what is more serious, an attempt to divest assets through a false declaration of incapacity. He paused. These people can go to jail. A lump formed in my throat. Including my son? Mr. Arnold sighed. Your son signed checks, participated in planning meetings, and according to what you're showing me, was aware of the general plan. Yes, he is also implicated, although he hesitated. He seems more like a minor accomplice than the mastermind of the operation. He's a manipulated idiot, I said bitterly. But he's an idiot who was going to lock me up in assisted living. Exactly. And that cannot be forgiven just because he was deceived. Mr. Arnold leaned back in his chair. Now you have two paths. One, we report everything immediately to the district attorney's office. There are enough elements for them to issue arrest warrants. Your son, your daughter-in-law, and the accomplices would be arrested in a matter of days. And the other path? The other is more strategic. We let them go ahead with their plan. Up to a certain point, we watch them, collect more evidence, and when they are about to complete the fraud, that's when we stop them. Caught red-handed, as they say, the sentence would be much more severe. I remained silent, processing. What do you recommend? Mr. Arnold leaned forward. It depends on what you want to achieve, ma'am. Legal justice or poetic justice? That question resonated within me. Legal justice was cold, fast, bureaucratic. Poetic justice was something else. It was looking them in the eyes. It was letting them feel like they won, only to snatch everything away. It was teaching them a lesson they would never forget. Poetic, I finally said. I want them to feel the same way I felt when I saw them planning my destruction. Mr. Arnold smiled. Not a happy smile, a warrior's smile before battle. Then we'll need patience, and it's going to hurt, because you'll have to act in front of them as if you knew nothing. I can do it. Are you sure? You'll have to hug your son knowing what he plans. You'll have to smile at your daughter-in-law. You'll have to pretend to be the frail old woman they believe you are. I got up from the chair. At 67, with arthritis in my knees and grey hair on my head, I felt stronger than ever. Mr. Curtis, I sewed dresses for 30 years. I smiled at unbearable clients. I worked while sick. I buried my husband. And I kept going alone. I raised a son as a widow. I built assets worth $17 million from scratch. I looked him straight in the eye. I can fake anything necessary. He nodded with respect. Then let's begin. Returning home was like entering a cemetery. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. The ivory walls I painted 3 years ago, the brown velvet sofa where Henry and I dreamed of the future, the dining room table where we celebrated every one of Ethan's birthdays, all contaminated now with the poison of betrayal. I arrived on a Sunday afternoon, as planned with Mr. Arnold. It had to seem natural, a tired old woman returning from visiting her sister. Ethan arrived 30 minutes after I notified him. He rang the doorbell even though he has keys. That hurt. As if it were no longer his house. As if I were a stranger he had to knock on the door for. I opened it with a smile that cost me every muscle in my face. "Honey, it's so good to see you." He hugged me, and I had to hug him back. I had to inhale the scent of his expensive cologne, feel his arms around me, and pretend I didn't know those same arms had signed my sentence. "How was your trip, Mum? How is Aunt Rhonda?" "Good, good. You know how she is, non-stop talking." Lie after lie. I hadn't gone to Boston. Rhonda didn't even know about this macabre theatre. Ethan sat in the living room. I served him iced tea, which he has always liked. We acted like a normal mother and son, as if there wasn't a corrupt lawyer waiting for $45,000 to destroy me. "Mum, have you been feeling well?" "I don't know. Lately you look tired." There it was, the hook, the beginning of the trap. Mr. Arnold had warned me that they would start planting the idea that I was sick, confused, senile. Yes, honey. Sometimes I feel a little forgetful. The other day I couldn't remember where I put my glasses. I was wearing them. Lie. I have an elephant's memory. But he needed to hear that. I saw how his eyes barely lit up, an almost imperceptible glimmer, confirmation that his plan was on track. You should go to the doctor, Mom. Get some tests. Oh no, you know I don't like doctors. But it's important. Please, for me. For you. It was always for him, never for me. Well, if you say so. In fact, I know an excellent doctor, Dr. Spencer. He does very thorough geriatric evaluations. There was the name, the corrupt psychiatrist who would diagnose me as demented. Geriatric? I pretended to be offended. I'm not that old. Ethan laughed, a fake, hollow laugh. It's just a checkup, Mom, to prevent anything. All right, we'll talk about it later. I changed the subject. I asked about his work, about Valerie. Every answer was a lie wrapped in another lie. He stayed barely 40 minutes. He had things to do. He always had things to do when it came to his mother. When he left, I collapsed onto the sofa. My legs were shaking. Acting in front of him had been harder than I imagined. I gripped the silver locket I always wear around my neck. Inside is the photo of Henry and me on our wedding day. We were so young, so full of dreams. Forgive me, my love, I whispered to the photo. Forgive me for not raising our son better. The following days were a calculated torture. Valerie started visiting me, something she never did. She would arrive with a look of fake concern and poisoned words disguised as affection. Mother-in-law, Ethan told me you've been forgetful. How are you feeling? Fine, dear. It's just old age. I hated calling her dear, but I had to. She would sit in my living room, drink my coffee, and study my every move like a scientist observing an experiment. One afternoon, while I pretended to look for my keys that I had lost, they were in my purse, I saw her discreetly taking photos of the house with her cell phone, surely to show them to the corrupt social worker as evidence that I lived in disarray. But my house was spotless, as always. 2 weeks after returning from Boston, Ethan brought up the doctor again. Mum, I already scheduled an appointment with Dr. Spencer. It's this Friday at 11 o'clock. This Friday, but You have nothing, Mum. And it's important. Please. The way Ethan said please sounded more like an order. All right. Mr. Arnold had prepared me for this. I would go to the appointment. I would let the fraudulent doctor perform his little act. But I would bring my own surprise. Friday arrived. Ethan picked me up. He took me to a private clinic in Manhattan. Everything elegant, modern, impersonal. Dr. Spencer was a man in his 60s, perfectly combed grey hair, spotless white coat. He greeted me with a professional smile. Mrs. Johnson, a pleasure. Please come in. Ethan tried to enter with me. I prefer it to be alone, due to protocol, the doctor said. My son stayed in the waiting room. Once alone, Dr. Spencer changed completely. The smile became mechanical. We're going to do some simple tests, ma'am. Just answer calmly. He asked me silly questions. What day is today? What year are we in? Who is the president? I answered everything perfectly. I saw the frustration on his face. Then he started with tricky questions. Do you remember what you had for breakfast? Do you know how you got here? Do you recognize the people who take care of you? No one takes care of me, doctor. I live alone, and I'm perfectly capable. He scribbled things in his notebook, things I couldn't see. Then he asked me to draw a clock. I did it perfectly. He asked me to repeat a list of words. I repeated them all. He asked me to subtract sevens from 100. I did it without error. Every test I passed was a thorn in his side. Finally, he sighed. Ma'am, do you manage your own finances? Yes. Do you make important decisions alone? Always. Does your son help you with anything? My son has his life. I have mine. I saw him clench his jaw. I was not following the script they had paid him to write. Well, Mrs. Johnson, I'll send the results to your son in a few days. To my son? Not to me? Well, he was the one who requested the evaluation. But I'm the patient. Uncomfortable silence. You're right. I'll send them to both of you. Lie. I knew he would send a false diagnosis of advanced cognitive decline. I left the office. Ethan stood up immediately. How did it go? Fine. The doctor is very kind. Lie for lie. We were all lying. This family had become a nest of vipers. On the way back, Ethan was quiet. I knew what he was thinking. He was calculating how long it would be until the false diagnosis arrived, and they could take the next step. When we arrived at my house, before I got out, he took my hand. Mom, you know I love you, right? I stared into those eyes that I helped open for the first time 38 years ago. Those eyes that looked at me with infinite love when he was a baby, that searched for me when he had nightmares, that cried on my shoulder when he lost his first love. When did those eyes learn to lie? I knew my son. But I didn't know anymore. I no longer knew anything about this man who bore my dead husband's name and acted like a stranger. I got out of the car. I entered my house. I closed the door. And there, leaning against the cold wood, I finally let out the sob I had been holding in. I cried for the son I lost, for the family that never truly existed, for the years I wasted believing that love was enough. But when the tears ran out, I dried my face, poured myself a glass of water, and called Mr. Arnold. I went to see Dr. Spencer. And? I passed all the tests perfectly. He looked frustrated. Good. That means they'll have to falsify the diagnosis more obviously. Better evidence for us. How much longer do I have to pretend? Patience, Mrs. Johnson. We're cornering them. But we need them to take the next step, to try to make the transfer. That's where we'll catch them. I hung up the phone. Patience. That word again. But my patience was running out along with my heart. The diagnosis arrived a week later by certified mail, a thick manila envelope with the clinic's letterhead. I opened it with trembling hands, even though I already knew what it would say. Moderate to severe cognitive decline. Permanent supervision recommended. Inability to make financial or legal decisions autonomously. Suggestion of immediate family guardianship. Every word was a lie. It was a lie paid for with $45,000. I took a photo of the document and sent it to Mr. Arnold. His response was immediate. Perfect. It's crystal clear evidence of forgery. I put the original in a safe place. I stored the envelope in a safe hidden behind a painting in my bedroom. No one knows about that safe. Not even Ethan. Inside are all my important documents. Deeds, will, insurance policies. And now, the proof of my son's betrayal. 2 days later, Ethan arrived with Valerie. It was Saturday afternoon. I was making pot roast, as I did every Saturday since Ethan was a boy. A tradition that once united us. Now it was just theatre. Mum, we need to talk. The tone was serious, rehearsed. Is something wrong? Valerie sat on the sofa like the lady of the house. Ethan remained standing, nervous. Your diagnosis from Dr. Spencer arrived. Oh, yes, I received it too. Did you read it? Of course. It says I'm out of my mind. Uncomfortable silence. It's not that you're out of your mind, Mum. It's just you need help, support. I'm fine, Ethan. I cook, I clean, I drive, I pay my bills. What more do you want? Valerie intervened with that syrupy voice she used when she wanted to manipulate. Mother-in-law, it's for your own good. At your age, these things get worse quickly. You need someone to take care of you. No one is going to take care of me. I take care of myself. Mom, it's not negotiable. The way Ethan said that chilled my blood. It's not negotiable. As if I were a child. As if my opinion didn't matter. What do you mean by that? He took some papers out of his briefcase. I spoke with a lawyer. I'm going to apply for guardianship. It's a legal process where I become responsible for your decisions, your finances, your well-being. Are you taking away my freedom? I'm protecting you. I got up from the chair. Rage burned inside me, but I had to control it. It wasn't time yet. I'm not signing anything. You don't need to sign. The medical diagnosis is enough. Valerie barely smiled. That victorious smile she practiced so much. Also, Ethan continued, I talked with the family, with Aunt Martha, with Uncle Evan, with your cousins. I explained the situation to them. They all agree that it's for the best. I gasped. You told everyone I'm crazy? You're not crazy, Mom. You're sick. I'm not sick. That doctor is a fraud. Ethan and Valerie exchanged glances. The look of, see? She's paranoid, just like we said. Mum, please don't make this more difficult. Get out of my house. What? Leave, both of you, gee. Ethan took a step toward me. Mum! Out! My scream echoed off the walls. Valerie immediately stood up, scared. Ethan stayed there, looking at me as if I were a wild animal. Let's go, Valerie said, pulling his arm. See how she gets. She's worse than we thought. They left, and I was left alone among the pots of pot roast that no one was going to eat. But the worst was yet to come. 3 days later, my phone started ringing non-stop. Aunt Martha, Uncle Evan, my cousin Laura, my niece Patty, all calling, worried, confused. Ethan had told them I was unwell, that I refused to receive help, that I was in danger. I had to explain to each one that I was perfectly fine, that it was a misunderstanding, that Ethan was exaggerating. Some believed me, others didn't. Oh, Ellie, but he's your son. Why would he lie to you? Why? For 17 million reasons. The final blow came the following Sunday. Ethan organized a family meeting at his house. He called me to say it was important that I go, that we needed to resolve this as a family. Mr. Arnold told me to go, that it was part of the plan, that I needed to see how far they were willing to go. I arrived at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Ethan's house in Beverly Hills, a house they bought 2 years ago with money I lent them and they never paid back. $20,000. I gave in good faith for the down payment. When I entered, everyone was there. Aunt Martha, Uncle Evan with his wife Kathy, my cousin Laura and her husband, my niece Patty. Even Father Michael, the priest from the parish where I had Ethan baptized, was there. I felt like I was in a courtroom. Ethan pointed me to a single armchair in the center, as if I were the accused. Thank you for coming, Mum. Please sit down. I sat down. Everyone looked at me with a mixture of pity and concern. Valerie was in the kitchen making coffee, the perfect hostess. Ethan stood up in front of everyone. I gathered you because I need your support. Mum is sick. She has cognitive decline, but she refuses to accept it. Aunt Martha, my late husband's older sister, spoke with a shaky voice. Ellie, my love, is it true? Are you sick? No, Martha. I'm perfectly fine. Ethan took out Dr. Spencer's diagnosis and passed it around like evidence in a tribunal. Everyone read it. Everyone shook their heads sadly. Eleanor, Father Michael intervened with that pastoral voice he used for sermons. Sometimes diseases of the mind prevent us from seeing our own condition. It's not your fault, but you must accept help. Father, with all due respect, I am not sick. That diagnosis is false. See, Ethan said, raising his hands. She thinks it's a conspiracy. Everyone looked at me with more pity. It's not a conspiracy. It's the truth. Laura came closer and took my hand. Cousin, I know it's hard to accept. When my mother had Alzheimer's, she also refused. I don't have Alzheimer's. I don't have anything. Ethan continued with his prepared speech. That's why I need to process the guardianship, to protect her, so she doesn't make decisions she'll regret later. Uncle Evan nodded. It's the right thing to do, Ethan. You're a good son. Good son. Those words pierced me like bullets. Valerie came out of the kitchen with a tray of coffee and cookies. She served everyone with a sweet smile. The worried daughter-in-law, the supportive wife. I wanted to scream at everyone that they were idiots, that they were being lied to, that this was an orchestrated robbery. But if I did, I would confirm what Ethan had told them, that I was paranoid, delusional, crazy. So I stayed silent, clenching my fists, feeling the public humiliation. So you all agree, Ethan said. Tomorrow I start the legal process. Everyone nodded, even Father Michael. It's for your own good, Eleanor, Martha repeated. For my own good. Everything was for my own good. I stood up from the armchair. Where are you going, Mum? I'm leaving. I have nothing else to do here. But we just served coffee. I don't want your coffee. I don't want your pity. And I don't want your betrayal. I walked toward the door. No one stopped me. They all let me go, thinking I was a confused old woman having a tantrum. I got into my Honda Civic. I closed the door. And there, in the parking lot of my son's house, with the afternoon falling over the city, I allowed myself to cry out of humiliation. They had exposed me. They had judged me. They had condemned me without hearing me. And worst of all, they had done it with the blessing of my own family and a priest. I drove home with tears in my eyes. I almost crashed twice because I couldn't see well. When I arrived, I locked myself in my bedroom. I turned off my cell phone, and I lay down in the darkness. I didn't eat dinner that night. I didn't watch TV. I did nothing. I just stayed there, staring at the ceiling, feeling like the loneliest woman in the universe. But at some point in the early morning, something changed inside me. The pain transformed into something darker, more powerful. Fury. Pure, burning, relentless fury. I got out of bed. I turned on the light. I looked in the mirror. And that 67-year-old woman with swollen eyes and messy hair was no longer the same. She was no longer the suffering mother. She was the warrior. And the war was just beginning. I cried for 3 days, 3 complete days where I barely left the bed, where the phone rang and I didn't answer, where the food remained untouched in the kitchen. Stella came to knock on the door on the 3rd day. She used the emergency key I gave her years ago. She found me sitting on the living room sofa, staring into space, with my hair uncombed and wearing the same clothes from Sunday. Ellie, for God's sake, She sat next to me. She didn't say anything else. She just hugged me, and I clung to her like a shipwrecked person to a life raft. They humiliated me, Stella, in front of everyone. They treated me like I was crazy. I know, my love, I know. And no one defended me. No one. She pulled away to look me in the eyes. Then defend yourself, like you've done all your life. She was right. I had buried my husband and kept going. I had built a business from nothing. I had raised a son alone. I had survived things that would kill other people. And now I was going to let myself be destroyed by an ungrateful son and his viper of a wife. No. I got up from the sofa. I took a shower. I washed my hair. I put on clean clothes. And I called Mr. Arnold. I need to see you today. Now. An hour later, I was in his office. This time, I was not a scared victim. I was a general planning a battle. Mrs. Johnson, are you okay? No, but I will be. Tell me everything. What's next in your plan? Mr. Arnold opened a thick folder. While you were processing, I was investigating, and I found interesting things. He pulled out several documents. First, Valerie Smith, your daughter-in-law, has a record. 7 years ago, she defrauded her previous partner in Chicago. She took $30,000 from him and disappeared. He never sued her because he was embarrassed. I felt a dark satisfaction rush through me. How did you find that out? I have contacts. The point is that your daughter-in-law is a professional scammer. Your son is not her first victim. He pulled out more papers. Second, I found this Rodney guy. Rodney Evans, 35 years old, gym instructor, and he is indeed Valerie's lover. They live together in an apartment in Brooklyn that she rented 4 months ago. Your son has no idea. They live together? That's right. She tells Ethan she goes to the gym 3 times a week. In reality, she spends those nights with Rodney. Every revelation was another nail in Valerie's coffin. Third, and this is important, Valerie has debts, lots of debts. Credit cards maxed out, unpaid personal loans. She owes approximately $58,000. Does my son know? No. She has been paying the minimums with the money he gives her for household expenses. Mr. Arnold closed the folder and looked at me seriously. Mrs. Johnson, this woman plans to steal everything from you, leave your son, and go to England with her lover. Your son is only a means to an end. Something stirred inside me. Yes, Ethan had betrayed me, but he was also a victim of this woman. Or so I wanted to believe, so as not to accept that my son was just as guilty. And Mr. Miller? That's another case. Arthur Miller has several open files at the state bar for unethical practices. He has never been sanctioned because he is slippery. But this time, we have him. What do you recommend I do? Mr. Arnold leaned back against his desk. They will try to get you to sign transfer documents. Probably this week. They will pressure you using the false diagnosis and family concern. When that moment comes, you sign. What? You sign. But first, you and I are going to go to a real notary, one I know, and we are going to make a notarized statement that you are being coerced. We are going to record your testimony. It will show that you are completely lucid. And then, when you sign the fake documents, we will have absolute proof of fraud. And then we arrest all of them, with irrefutable evidence. Will my son go to jail? Mr. Arnold didn't lie. Probably, unless he cooperates against the others. I stayed silent, processing that. My son, in jail. Was that what I wanted? I need to think about it. I understand, but we don't have much time. They will speed up the process after what happened on Sunday. He was right. The following days were a whirlwind of secret activity. I went with the notary Mr. Arnold recommended, Mr. Jerry Thompson, a man in his 70s with an impeccable reputation. In front of him and 2 witnesses, I gave my full testimony. I narrated everything: the conspiracy, the recordings, the corrupt doctor, the humiliating family meeting. They gave me mental capacity tests. I passed them all perfectly. "Mrs. Johnson," Mr. Thompson said after 2 hours, "you are more lucid than people half your age. This will be legally recorded. If anyone tries to declare otherwise, this notarized act refutes it." He handed me certified copies. I stored them in my safe along with the other evidence. I also hired a private investigator, a discreet man named Mark Valdez, whom Mr. Arnold knew. "I want photos of Valerie with her lover, videos if possible. I want irrefutable evidence." Mark worked fast. In 3 days he had what I needed. Photos of Valerie entering the Brooklyn apartment. Photos of her kissing Rodney at the door. Video of them both leaving together, holding hands, laughing. Every image was a dagger. But I also investigated Ethan's finances more thoroughly. With Mr. Arnold's help, we discovered something unsettling. My son was having economic problems. His practice was not doing as well as he boasted. He had debts with suppliers, 3 months behind on the rent for his main office. And worst of all, he had taken out a loan for $85,000 6 months ago that was about to expire. That's why he needed my money so urgently. It wasn't just ambition. It was necessity. That information gave me a different perspective. It didn't justify anything, but it explained it. One night, while reviewing all the collected material, Stella came to visit me. "How are you feeling?" "Stronger, clearer." "Have you decided what you're going to do?" I stared at the photos scattered on my table. Ethan signing the check for Miller, Valerie kissing Rodney, the false diagnosis, the debt documents. "I'm going to give them enough rope to hang themselves." Stella smiled sadly. "Sounds like there's no turning back." "There isn't. I let them humiliate me once. There won't be a second time." Thursday afternoon, as Mr. Arnold had predicted, Ethan called me. "Mum, we need you to come in tomorrow to sign some documents." "What documents?" "For the guardianship, and some bank papers, to protect your assets." "To steal my assets," he meant. "Is it necessary?" "Yes, Mum. It's for your own good." That "for your own good" again. It made me nauseous. "All right. What time?" 11 o'clock. At Mr. Miller's office. I'll send you the address." "Will the notary be there?" "Yes. Everything will be legal. I promise you." Promises of a liar. I hung up and immediately called Mr. Arnold. "It's tomorrow. They're going to try to get me to sign." "Perfect. I'll be close by with the authorities. I'll bring a real notary and an officer from the district attorney's office. The moment you sign those fraudulent documents, we go in." "And what if I back out?" "Are you going to back out?" I remained silent. I thought about the 38 years I dedicated to raising Ethan, the sleepless nights when he was sick, the sacrifices, the unconditional love. I thought about the family meeting where they humiliated me, the false diagnosis, the way they planned to lock me up. "No," I said firmly. "I'm not going to back out." "Then I'll see you tomorrow." "And Mrs. Johnson?" "Yes." "It's going to hurt. Even when you win, it's going to hurt." "It already hurts, Mr. Arnold. It already hurts." I didn't sleep that night. I spent it sitting on the brown velvet sofa, holding the locket with Henry's photo. "My love," I whispered to him, Tomorrow I'm going to do something I never imagined. I'm going to report our son. Forgive me if it's a mistake, but I can't let them destroy me, not after everything we fought to build. I felt as if Henry answered me, not with words, but with a sense of peace. He would have done the same. He would never have let anyone, not even his son, trample on me. I woke up with irritated eyes, but a clear mind. I dressed in my best clothes, a brown pantsuit I made myself 2 years ago, pearl earrings, the silver locket, comfortable but elegant shoes. If I was going to face my betrayers, I would do it with dignity. Before leaving, I looked at myself in the mirror one last time. "Eleanor Johnson," I said aloud, "today you reclaim your life," and I left my house headed for justice. Mr. Miller's office was in Los Angeles, in one of those glass buildings where everything shines, but nothing is real. I arrived 10 minutes before 11. Mr. Arnold had told me to be punctual, not to give any signs of suspicion. In the parking lot, I checked my purse. I carried my ID, my glasses, and a small rosary that belonged to my mother. Not to pray, but to have something of hers with me at this moment. I went up to the 12th floor. The elevator doors opened to an elegant reception area. Marble floor, modern furniture, a young receptionist with a plastic smile. "Good morning. I'm here to see Mr. Miller." "Name?" "Eleanor Johnson." She checked her computer. "Yes, they are waiting for you. Please come in. Conference room 2. I walked down a long hallway. My shoes echoed against the floor. Each step brought me closer to the decisive moment. I opened the door to the conference room. Everyone was there. Ethan, standing next to the window. Valerie, sitting with a look of feigned concern. Mr. Miller, with his shark smile. And an older man I didn't know, with a leather briefcase. "Mom, glad you made it." Ethan walked over to give me a kiss on the cheek. I had to make a superhuman effort not to pull away. "Please sit down," Miller said, pointing to a chair. I sat down. Everyone settled around the table like vultures around a carcass. "Mrs. Johnson," Miller began in a professional voice, "today we are going to formalize your son's guardianship over your assets. It's a simple process. We just need a few signatures." "And who is he?" I asked, pointing to the older man. "He is Notary Public 147, Mr. Daniel Ugalde. He will attest that everything is done according to law." Fake notary, surely. Or bought. Ugalde nodded with a serious face. Miller pulled out a stack of documents. "First, this is the guardianship document. It establishes that due to your medical condition, your son, Ethan, will become your legal guardian." He handed me the papers. I quickly read. Everything was there. The declaration of incapacity based on the false diagnosis, the transfer of decision-making power, the authorization for Ethan to move my money. "And what if I don't want to sign?" Tense silence. Ethan spoke in a soft voice. "Mum, we talked about this. It's for your own good." "Besides," Valerie intervened, "we already discussed it as a family. Everyone agrees." I remained silent. I pretended to hesitate. "Mrs. Johnson," Miller said with false patience, "you are not in a condition to make this decision. The medical diagnosis is clear. That diagnosis is—" I stopped myself. Mr. Arnold had told me not to confront them yet, to sign, to let them feel victorious. "All right," I finally said. "Where do I sign?" I saw Miller and Valerie exchange relieved glances. Ethan sighed. The fake notary pointed to the pages. "Here, here, and here, with your full name." I took the pen. My hand trembled, not from fear, from contained rage. I signed the first page, then the second. But when I was about to sign the third, the conference room door burst open. 4 people entered. Mr. Arnold, a notary I did know, Mr. Jerry Thompson, an officer from the district attorney's office with a visible badge, and a uniformed woman, a detective from the police department. "What does this mean?" Miller shouted, jumping up from his chair. Mr. Arnold spoke in a firm, clear voice. "Mr. Arthur Miller, Mr. Daniel Ugalde, be advised that you are being investigated for fraud, forgery of documents, and conspiracy to commit asset stripping." The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan looked at me with wide eyes. "Mum, what?" Valerie was pale. Miller had lost all his arrogance. The district attorney's officer approached the table. "Who is Mrs. Eleanor Johnson Carter?" "I am," I said, standing up. "Are you being coerced into signing these documents?" "Yes." "Are you in full possession of your mental faculties?" "Completely." Mr. Thompson, the real notary, pulled documents from his briefcase. "I have here a notarized act dated 4 days ago where Mrs. Johnson gave a full testimony of her mental capacity. She passed all the evaluations. It is certified that there is no cognitive decline." Daniel Ugalde, the bought notary, tried to leave. "Hold it," the detective said, blocking his path. "You're not going anywhere." Mr. Arnold continued. "We have audio and video recordings where this fraud is planned. We have evidence of illegal payments. We have a medical diagnosis falsified by Dr. Hector Spencer, who will also be investigated." Miller finally reacted. "This is a misunderstanding. We were just stealing $17 million? It's not a misunderstanding, sir. It's a felony." Ethan was still looking at me as if I were a stranger. "Mom, you knew this whole time. This whole time," I repeated, "since you set foot in this trap." Valerie stood up abruptly. "This is ridiculous. Ethan, don't just stand there. Call your lawyer." "I am a lawyer," my son muttered, his voice broken. "Well then, defend us. Defend me." There it was, the moment of truth. Mr. Arnold pulled out more documents. "Mrs. Valerie Smith, do you recognize these photographs?" He placed the photos of her with Rodney on the table, kissing, hugging, entering the apartment together. Ethan's face changed from shock to absolute devastation. "What is this?" Valerie paled even more. "Ethan, I can explain." "Can you explain why you're kissing another man? It's a setup. She did it. Your mother invented everything." Mr. Arnold put more evidence on the table. "We also have bank records showing that Mrs. Smith has debts of $58,000, debts she has been hiding, and we have transfers to a Mr. Rodney Evans for smaller amounts, totaling approximately $12,000 in the last 4 months." Ethan sank into the chair. He put his hands on his head. "My God. My God." The district attorney's officer took out his notebook. "I need everyone to remain here while we take statements. Mr. Miller, Mr. Ugalde, you have the right to remain silent and to an attorney." "This is illegal," Miller protested, regaining some of his voice. "You can't just walk in here." "We have a search warrant," the officer showed a document. "Signed this morning by a judge. You are all formally under investigation." Miller collapsed in his chair. The detective began taking photos of the fake documents on the table, evidence that would be used in the trial. I was still standing, watching everything crumble in front of me. Valerie tried to approach Ethan. "My love, listen to me. This is not what it looks like." He pushed her away with a harsh gesture. "Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me." "Ethan, how long? How long have you been cheating on me?" She didn't answer. She just started crying. Fake crocodile tears. Mr. Arnold approached me. "Are you all right, Mrs. Johnson?" "Yes," I lied. I wasn't all right. I was destroyed inside, but I was standing, and that was the only thing that mattered. Ethan finally looked at me. There were tears in his eyes. "Mum, I didn't know she—" "You didn't know? You didn't know she was planning to rob me? You didn't know you signed a check for $45,000 for that criminal lawyer? You didn't know they wanted to lock me up in assisted living?" I thought, "She told me it was for your own good, that you were sick." "I'm not sick, Ethan. I never was. And deep down, you knew it." He lowered his gaze. "I had debts. The practice is bankrupt. You needed my money. So you planned to rob me." "It wasn't stealing. I thought that later, when everything was settled, I would give it all back to you. I would take care of you. It would be a loan." I laughed without humor. "A loan I never authorized, for which you would declare me crazy and lock me up against my will." "Valerie said it would be for the best, that you would be comfortable, well cared for." "And you believed her?" Silence. "You believed that woman who was cheating on you with another man, who has a lover with whom she planned to go to England with my money, that woman who used you as a tool?" Ethan sobbed openly. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "But you knew you were betraying me, your mother, the one who worked day and night to give you an education, the one who sewed until her fingers bled so you could go to college, the one who gave you the down payment for your house, the one who always, always stood by you." I know, and I hate myself for it." He covered his face with his handcuffed hands. "Do you know what the worst part is, Ethan? It's not the money. Money is just money. The worst part is that you chose to believe her over me. That when I told you I was fine, that I wasn't sick, you chose to ignore me. That you humiliated me in front of the whole family. That you treated me like a burden. Forgive me, Mom. Please." "How can I forgive you? How do I forgive you for doing exactly what you swore you would never do?" He looked at me without understanding. "When your father died," I continued, my voice trembling, "when you were barely 12 years old, you hugged me at the funeral and told me, 'Don't worry, Mum. I'm going to take care of you always. I'll never let you down.' Do you remember?" His eyes filled with new tears. "I remember. You lied. You let me down in the worst possible way." He buried his head in his arms and cried like a small child. Something inside me wanted to get up, wrap my arms around him, comfort him, the maternal instinct that 38 years cannot erase. But I stayed seated, still, because it wasn't me who needed comforting. It was me who needed justice. Mr. Arnold spoke for the first time. "Ethan, the officer, Ms. Davis, offered you a deal. If you return the advance payment money, if you testify against Miller, Ugaldi, and Dr. Spencer, and if you agree to a reparation of damages toward your mother, they could significantly reduce your sentence." Ethan lifted his head. "Reparation of damages? You must compensate your mother for the emotional damages and for the legal expenses she has had to incur." "I don't have any money. I already told you. I'm bankrupt." "Then you will work to pay it, for as long as it takes." Ethan looked at me. "Is that what you want, Mum? Money?" "I don't want your money, Ethan. I never did. All I ever wanted was your respect, your true love, your loyalty. You have them. You've always had them. Your actions say otherwise." There was another heavy silence. Finally, Mr. Arnold placed some papers on the table. "This is the agreement the district attorney's office is willing to offer. Read it. Think about it. You have until tomorrow to decide. Ethan took the papers with trembling hands. And Valerie? Your wife will face separate charges. Fraud, hiding debts, emotional bigamy doesn't apply legally, but adultery affects the divorce. She does not receive the same treatment as you because she has a history. She defrauded someone before. Ethan's face fell apart. How much time? Probably 7 to 10 years, without reduction. My son completely crumbled. And my girls? What will happen to Andrea and Camilla? I froze. Andrea and Camilla, my granddaughters, were 11 and 9 years old. In the midst of all this disaster, I had forgotten they existed. 2 innocent girls who were going to pay for their parents' mistakes. Where are they now? I asked. With Valerie's mother in Texas. Do they know anything about this? No, we told them it was a work meeting. Mr. Arnold intervened. If both parents go to prison, temporary custody will pass to relatives. The maternal grandmother or, he looked at me meaningfully, or the paternal grandmother. Me. He was telling me I could keep my granddaughters. 2 girls I barely saw twice a year because Valerie always made excuses not to visit me. They cannot pay for this, I said firmly. They are innocent. Ethan looked at me with something close to hope. Would you take care of them, despite everything? I wouldn't do it for you. I would do it for them, and for your father, who would be heartbroken to see what you turned your life into. He nodded, defeated. I accept the deal. I will do whatever is necessary. I will testify. I will return the money even if I have to sell everything. But please, take care of my girls. Mr. Arnold collected the papers. Then we will sign the documents tomorrow, Mrs. Johnson. Do you agree with this arrangement? I stared at my son. That 38-year-old man who seemed to have aged 10 years in a single day. Did I agree? No. I wanted him to pay more. I wanted him to suffer as I suffered. But I also wanted my granddaughters to eventually have at least one of their parents available. I agree, but with one additional condition. What is it? When you get out of this, when you pay everything you owe, I don't want to see you for 1 year. A full year where you don't come near me. Where you rebuild your life in silence. And after that, perhaps we can talk about whether forgiveness is possible. Ethan closed his eyes. Are you banishing me? I'm giving you time and space to reflect on the man you became and the man you should be. He nodded slowly. All right, I accept. I got up from the chair. I had nothing more to say. Mum. I stopped at the door but didn't turn around. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to you. You don't make it up to me, Ethan. You make it up to your daughters. Become the father they deserve. You already failed as a son. I left that room with my back straight and my eyes dry. But when I got to Mr. Arnold's car, when I sat down and closed the door, I finally let myself cry. I cried for the son I lost, for the family that was destroyed, for the granddaughters I would have to raise at 67. I cried for everything that could have been and never was. And I cried because justice, although necessary, does not erase the pain. It just makes it bearable. 6 months later. I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, like every morning since Andrea and Camilla came to live with me. The girls slept in the room that used to be my tailoring workshop. I converted that space full of fabrics and machines into a cozy room with 2 twin beds, lavender curtains, and a bookcase full of stories. I made breakfast. Scrambled eggs, hash browns, fresh biscuits. The aroma filled the house, and soon I heard Andrea's steps coming down the stairs. Good morning, Grandma. Good morning, my love. Did you sleep well? Yes, I had a nice dream. I dreamed Dad came to visit us. A lump formed in my throat. Ethan was serving a 2-year sentence with probation. He couldn't leave New York City. He worked at a public defender's office, earning barely enough to gradually pay his debt to me and the reparations for damages. Every month he deposited $1,200. It wasn't much, but it was constant. And it was honest. I hadn't spoken to him since that day at the district attorney's office. He sent messages through Mr. Arnold asking about the girls, but I didn't respond directly. I wasn't ready yet. Camila came down, rubbing her eyes. Is it time for school already? Yes, my angel. Go wash your face. Both girls had suffered terribly when we explained what had happened to their parents. Crying, nightmares, questions that didn't have easy answers. But children are resilient. And with time, with routine, with love, they began to heal. After taking them to school, I returned home. Stella came to visit, as she did 3 times a week. How are the girls? Better. Andrea got an A on her math test. Camila is learning to play the flute. And you? I stayed silent, making coffee. I'm here, doing my duty. Ellie, it's been 6 months. When are you going to allow yourself to feel something other than obligation? I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. You're raising those girls out of duty, not joy. You get up, you feed them, you take them to school, you do homework with them, but you don't smile. She was right. I had built a perfect, efficient, responsible routine, but somewhere along the way, I had forgotten how to enjoy it. I don't know if I can, Stella. Every time I look at them, I see Ethan. I see his betrayal. They are not his betrayal. They are innocent. I know. That's why I'm taking care of them. But taking care of them is not the same as loving them, and they feel it. Those words hurt because they were true. That afternoon, when I picked up the girls from school, instead of going straight home, I took them to Central Park. Really, Grandma? Camila asked with sparkling eyes. Really, we're going to buy ice cream and feed the ducks. We spent 3 hours there, running, laughing. Camila showed me how to make flower crowns. Andrea told me about the boy she likes in her class. And for the first time in 6 months, I felt something warm in my chest. It wasn't complete happiness, but it was a beginning. A week later, Mr. Arnold called me. Mrs. Johnson, we have news. What happened? Valerie was sentenced. 9 years in actual prison. No possibility of reduction for the next 4 years. 9 years. That woman who planned to destroy me would be locked up for almost a decade. And Miller? 7 years. Ugalde, 5. Doctor. Spencer lost his professional license and is also facing criminal charges. Probably 6 years. Everyone paying. Everyone facing consequences. How do you feel? Mr. Arnold asked. I don't know. I thought I would feel victorious, but I just feel tired. It's normal. Justice doesn't always bring immediate peace. Sometimes it just brings closure. Closure. That word again. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived at my house. Sender, Ethan Johnson. I left it on the kitchen table for 3 days without opening it. Andrea saw it one morning. Grandma, is that from Dad? Yes. Aren't you going to read it? Not yet. Why not? How do you explain to an 11-year-old girl that sometimes forgiveness requires more strength than you have available? Because I'm still mad at your dad. I was mad too, Andrea said, with a maturity that did not match her age. But I miss talking to him. That night, after putting the girls to bed, I finally opened the letter. It was long, 3 pages handwritten in Ethan's handwriting that I knew so well. It started with apologies, pages of apologies, acknowledging every mistake, every lie, every betrayal. Then he talked about his process, how he was going to therapy, how he was learning to see the signs of manipulation he ignored with Valerie, how he had hit rock bottom and from there was trying to rebuild himself. And at the end, he wrote something that broke me. Mum, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I only ask that when you look at my daughters, when you hug them, when you take care of them, you remember that once I was also that innocent boy, and that somewhere inside the man who betrayed you, there still exists the son who loved you, who has always loved you, who just lost his way in the most horrible way possible. I don't need you to love me again. I just need you to know that everything I'm doing now, every day of honest work, every dollar I return to you, every moment I spend reflecting on my mistakes, I do it because even if you no longer consider me your son, I will never stop considering you my mother. And no one can take that away from me, not even myself with my unforgivable mistakes. I cried, reading those words, not because I forgave him, not yet, but because I recognized some truth in them. The next day, I wrote him a reply letter, short, direct. Ethan, I received your letter. I read it completely. I am not ready to see you or to talk to you, but I want you to know that Andrea and Camila are fine. They are healthy, happy, going to school. I am giving them what you and Valerie could not give them, stability. I am not writing this to hurt you, but to let you know that while you work on rebuilding your life, I am working on rebuilding theirs. Maybe someday we can talk. Maybe someday I can look at you without feeling this crack in my chest. But that day is not today. Keep paying your debt. Keep working on yourself. And when the 12 months we agreed upon have passed, we will see what is possible. Eleanor. I didn't sign it as Mum. I couldn't yet. The months continued to pass. The girls grew. Andrea turned 12 and we celebrated at home with cake and her friends. Camila lost her first tooth and we kept it in a special box. I reopened my tailoring workshop. I started taking small jobs, party dresses, alterations, embroidery. The girls helped me choose fabrics. Camila turned out to have a good eye for colours. One afternoon, while I was sewing a peach-coloured dress, Andrea sat next to me. Grandma, do you think Dad can ever live with us again? I stopped sewing. I don't know, my love. Many things would have to change. Like what? Like me being able to trust him again. And that takes a very, very long time. But is it possible? I looked at that 12-year-old girl who was watching me with hopeful eyes. In life, Andrea, almost anything is possible. But some things require more than just desire. They require work, honesty, and time. How much time? As much as necessary. She nodded and went back to her task. The day finally came. 11 months after everything, 1 week before the year I imposed as a condition was fulfilled. Mr. Arnold called me. Mrs. Johnson, we have news. What happened? Ethan has finished paying his debt. The $45,000 plus $18,000 for reparation of damages. Everything covered. A lump formed in my throat. He worked double shifts for months. He sold his car. He sold everything he had of value. But he did it. And now what? Now it's up to you. Do you want to see him? Do the girls know he's asking to see them? Yes. He wrote to them a week ago. They want to see him. Of course they did. He was their father. Tell him to come Sunday, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, to my house. Are you sure? No, but I'm going to do it anyway. Sunday arrived with a stifling July heat. I made iced tea and put cookies on a plate. Andrea and Camilla were nervous, excited. They changed their clothes 3 times. At 3 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. The girls ran to open it. I stayed in the living room, standing next to the window. I heard their voices, the girls' shouts of joy, Ethan's contained sob. "Dad, Dad, we missed you so much." "Me too, my loves, me too." They entered the living room. Ethan was carrying Camilla in one arm and holding Andrea's hand with the other. He had become thin, haggard. He had grey hairs he didn't have before, new wrinkles around his eyes. The 11 months hadn't been easy for him either. We looked at each other in silence. The girls led him to the sofa, talking quickly, telling him everything at once. I sat in my brown velvet armchair, the same armchair where I cried a year ago, the same one from which I watched my world collapse. After 20 minutes of cheerful chaos, Andrea and Camilla noticed the tension. "Grandma, can I show Dad my room?" "Of course." The two went upstairs with him. I heard them walking on the second floor, muffled voices, laughter. I was left alone in the living room, holding my cup of coffee with trembling hands. 30 minutes later, Ethan came down alone. I told them to play for a while. "We need to talk." "Yes?" He sat on the sofa, maintaining a respectful distance. "First, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for taking care of my daughters. Thank you for not completely erasing me from their lives." I didn't respond. "I know I said all this in the letter, but I need to tell you in person. Mum, I made the worst mistake a son can make. I betrayed you, I hurt you, and the worst part is that I did it consciously." His voice broke. "I have no excuses. The debts, Valerie, the desperation. None of that justifies what I did. And I've spent every day of these 11 months confronting that truth." "And what truth is that?" I asked in a cold voice. "That I became the kind of man my father would have despised. That I failed not only as a son, but as a human being." Silence. "What do you want from me, Ethan?" "I don't want anything." "Well, that's a lie. I want everything. I want your forgiveness. I want to regain your trust. I want to be your son again." He wiped his tears. "But I know I have no right to ask for that, so I only ask one thing. Allow me to be in Andrea and Camilla's lives. I don't need to live here. I don't need to see you every week. I just need them to know they have a father who, even though he made horrible mistakes, is trying to be better." I looked at him for a long time. This man in front of me was different from the one I saw a year ago. More humble, more broken, but maybe more real. "You can see the girls," I finally said. "Once a week, Sundays. Here, in my house, under my supervision." "All right, whatever you say." "And you're going to go to therapy. With you and them. Family therapy. I've already started looking for options. And not one more lie, Ethan. Not one. Because if you lie to me again, if you betray my trust again, it will be the last time you see me. I promise. I swear on Dad's memory." I stood up from the sofa. "And one more thing." "What?" "Don't expect me to call you honey yet. Don't expect hugs. Don't expect us to act like a normal mother and son. Because we're not. Not anymore. And maybe we never will be again." He nodded, tears rolling down his cheeks. "I understand. But," I continued, and I saw him look up with hope. "But if you work at it, if you are constant, if you show with actions and not just words that you've changed, maybe someday I can look at you without feeling this crack in my chest." It's all I can ask for. I let him stay 2 hours. He played with the girls. He helped them with their homework. He made them laugh. And for a moment, just a flicker, I could see the son he once was. When he left, Andrea hugged me. Thank you, Grandma. Thank you for letting him come. You're welcome, my love. Are you going to forgive him? Eventually. But forgiveness is like a plant. You have to water it with patience and time. That night, after putting the girls to bed, I sat in my brown velvet armchair. I took out the locket with Henry's photo. My love, I whispered to him, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I don't know if giving him another chance is wisdom or weakness, but I need to try. For the girls, for the memory of who he once was, and maybe, just maybe, for myself too. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in a year, I felt something close to peace. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't forgetfulness. It was simply the possibility that the pain was not permanent, that the wounds, though deep, could heal, that the family, though broken, could be rebuilt. Different, more fragile, more conscious, but possible. I got up from the armchair and walked to the window. Outside, New York City sparkled with millions of lights, and I thought of all the women like me, betrayed mothers, grandmothers raising grandchildren, widows who keep going, warriors fighting silent battles in the privacy of their homes. I thought about how many of them were at this very moment deciding between revenge and forgiveness, between closing doors forever or leaving them ajar. And I knew there was no right answer. There was only the answer that lets you sleep at night. For me, that answer was to give a chance, a single one, with conditions, with limits, with protection, but a chance nonetheless. Because in the end, I learned that true wealth is not in the $17 million I almost lost. It is in having the strength to defend what is yours. It is in getting up after every betrayal. It is in raising granddaughters at 67 when you thought you were done raising children. It is in looking your son in the eyes and saying, "You hurt me, but you didn't destroy me." And above all, it is in knowing that your dignity was never up for negotiation. No one can take that away from you, unless you allow them to. Epilogue and final reflection. 2 more years passed. Ethan fulfilled every promise. Every Sunday at 3 o'clock sharp. Family therapy every 2 weeks. Honest work. Total transparency. Slowly, very slowly, the crack began to close. It didn't disappear. Scars never completely disappear. But it stopped hurting every time I saw him. One Sunday, while making pot roast, I realized I had smiled when I heard his voice greeting the girls. It was a small, insignificant moment for anyone else. But for me, it was everything, because it meant I was healing. And if I could heal, anyone could. Andrea is now 14 years old. She wants to study law like her dad. But to defend people, not to scam them, she says with that brutal honesty of teenagers. Camilla is 12 and discovered she loves to sew. She helps me in the workshop. She says when she grows up, she wants to have her own clothing brand. Ethan opened a small legal consulting firm for older adults. He helps people like me protect their assets. He works practically for free. He says it's his way of repairing, even minimally, the damage he caused. Valerie will be released from prison in 5 years. The girls visit her once a month. I never go with them. There are limits I do not cross. And me, I'm still here, in my Manhattan condo, sewing, raising, living. Sometimes they ask me, did you completely forgive him? And the honest answer is, enough. I forgave him enough so that the girls have a present father, enough so that family gatherings are not battlefields, enough to sleep peacefully at night, but not enough to forget. And perhaps that is the biggest lesson I learned. Forgiving does not mean forgetting. It means letting go of the need for revenge without letting go of the memory of what happened. Because that memory is what protects you. It's what keeps you alert. It's what reminds you that dignity must be defended. Always. If my story reached your heart, if something resonated in you, leave me a comment. Tell me where you are listening from. Share if you ever had to choose between forgiveness and justice. Like this video if you believe mothers deserve respect. And subscribe to keep listening to real-life stories of real women who faced impossible battles and came out ahead. Because in the end, that is the only truth that matters. Dignity is not inherited, it is defended. And once you learn to defend it, no one, absolutely no one, can take it away from you. Not even your own son.